Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today.
Hey, Kevin, it's great to meet you.
Hi. So first question, we got valedictorian, Harvard, magna cum laude, Columbia, law, tech, New York Times bestseller, and executive producer. What's it like being the real life girl wonder?
Oh man, it's funny to hear all that. I just feel like I'm just me. I was, at the Modernist last night after the San Francisco screening, and I was looking around all these cool Asian Americans in this swanky club, and I was like, I'm just a big nerd. I loved books. I loved, reading and just making up stories in my head. I'm somewhat of an introvert, it turns out, although I have my extrovert moments. So I think I'm really just me.
That's awesome. I love it. Uh, uh, what's been your favorite part about bringing Love Boat Taipei and turning it into a movie, Love in Taipei?
I think it's the community actually. Like when the books came out, I didn't know, like it was just me and the page and my agent and my editor and my critique partners. And then the book started coming out to the world and I would hear from readers. And I remember the most impactful one for me was my marketing. She was the marketing girl at HarperCollins, Jane Lee. And she said to me, she said she read my book 3 times and had never felt so seen before. And I would subsequently hear from more and more readers the same thing. And then last night at the screening, all these people came up and they said the same thing. I've never felt so seen before. And I think just how much the book means, the story means to people, and for people who have never traditionally received the spotlight to feel like, hey, our stories matter and we can be the main characters of our own lives. I think for me it has been the biggest like blessing of all.
I definitely definitely felt that too. I haven't read the book. I've wikied it and stuff, but just watching the movie, just kind of seeing like you know, because being kind of like the more traditional Asian Americans who like study hard, do hard, do the work, and you go and you're like, oh man, I'm going to more school, and oh wait, I'm here. I can have fun, like kind of thing, and then kind of breaking out of the show. I loved seeing that on screen and being able to kind of experience that, see it. And, someone who looks like me was really awesome. Was yeah. Thank you for that. Like, yeah, to share your story and to like help us feel seen is I'm really grateful. Um, but I was reading from like the book summary and stuff. There's been changes from the characters in the movie and to the book, and I was wondering if you could talk about how those changes came about and how you decided that it'd be better for the screen version than the book to change it from the book version.
Right. Well, the biggest challenge from moving from book to screen is that you have a 400-page book that gets condensed into 100-page script for 90 minutes. And so there's just not enough room for all the story that can go into the book form. And so what I loved was just leaning into the different strengths. So for a book, as you know, you can delve much deeper into the interiority of the characters. You can describe the history of a place and culture. And on a screen, you can showcase the beauty of Taipei, the kinetic energy of dancing, kind of the fun romantic interactions between characters, although you can definitely capture chemistry on the page too. um and what I would say is that the characters themselves are true to who they are. It's like Loki experiencing the multiverse where they are iterated, they're like in slightly different scenarios, but they're playing out kind of the same storyline. And at the core they are still struggling with the same things, like forever, like how does she honor her family while still pursuing her passions. And I think that's a thing that's reflected in all four of the main characters through the books as well as in the film. But then certainly there's ways that the story had to be condensed. So I think, maybe the most notable one is the introduction of the character Auntie Shu, who really is actually the dance instructor that Ever connects with in Taipei. She's a mentor figure, but by bringing her closer to home as a family member, it helped to kind of shore up Ever's relationship with her family and bring her closer.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and I didn't know that she was a dance instructor in the book, but that having kind of that kind of personal connection to someone who found their passion and pursued it is like it does make it like more attainable, I guess, more approachable.
Right,
And
right.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
that's a
exactly
genius.
what the dance teacher was forever. She's like, oh, this elegant Chinese woman is dancing and she loves it. So
As someone who's who's found their passions and able to pursue so many of them, and then kind of like bringing it back to Ever, who kind of didn't even really think about looking for her own passion much or even kind of pursuing it. What's your advice to those kind of in every situation who've kind of, dedicated their life to what, what they taught was best for them versus like finding her own kind of path in life and finding out what she wants to do.
Yeah, well, I think the first step is to just be open, right? Be open to it and understand yourself. Like, are you deeply unhappy? I remember when I would go to the law firm, which has ended up being another benefit in my life to have had that law firm experience. But I could tell it wasn't sustainable. Like I was working 100-hour weeks, and I didn't love the work. It was stressful, and it was really hard for me too. Like it was a lot of crossing T's and dotting I's, and I'm actually terrible at that. Um, and it was stressful to be responsible for that too. So I think knowing yourself and like trying to understand, like, am I in a situation where I'm set up for long-term success? Am I going to be happy in this role? And like allowing yourself to even consider that as something you should prioritize. For me, when I look back on my life, I don't know, it's like the will of the universe that I took the path that I did, but I am now able to draw on my network of lawyers that I worked with. And filmmaking is the confluence of three of my past careers, which is technology, finance, and now creative storytelling. So all that has come together in a way that I could never have imagined. So I think that's the other advice. Like you just don't know. Like we don't have to have like the 5 to 10 year plan perfectly nailed down because it probably won't unfold the way we expect anyways.
That's very true. My 5 year plan changes like multiple times in the first year. But you talked about your previous year. You have law, tech, finance, and now we have your, especially more recently, your creative endeavors. You've been profiled, from like Forbes to Entertainment Weekly, and I was wondering if you could share like the difference in experience of like what the experience is like and how it differs between being profiled for like your different endeavors.
It is interesting, though I do get a lot of conversations about artificial intelligence because that was one of my lives. And I think I just kind of put a different hat on. If I'm speaking to an audience that wants to learn about how does AI make my business better, I can do that. I speak like it's probably more of like a natural segue to talk about AI ethics, AI's impact on culture, and like how young people are using AI, right? So those are kind of areas where my two worlds overlap a little more. I do have projects, creative projects on AI, and I'm using AI to help with some of my creative projects. So um, I think that's in some ways the sweet spot where I like to play the most. But then we have conversations like this, like how do you become a writer? Tell us about the romance and the love triangle, and I love having all that too. I think it's just part of my thesis of like being yourselves and allowing yourself to be like all the things that you are.
That's all. I like that a lot. That's embracing every aspect of yourself, and especially with our stories now, coming more to life on screen and stuff, like being fully us, full dimensions, and not just what the pigeonhole that they used to, like always have. I really like. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome. Thank you.
absolutely. I'm excited about her myself.
Um, so going for living at all the different places and now being in like the around like the Silicon Valley area, eh, love in Taipei is obviously influenced by your environment. Um, how does your current environment influence your writing and storytelling and stories?
Yeah, so I used to live in Washington, D.C., which is a lawyer's town, and my husband was the techie. And then we moved to California, where he now works in tech, which is the industry here. And I was the lawyer, which is, more, I think, what the tech support was like in D.C. So I loved moving to California. I didn't initially, but what I found was it's a really high risk taking culture, and that failure is just a step in the journey to better things. And so, it's not uncommon to hear like, oh, the startup company that hits is the third one, right? So you have two failed startups along the way, but you pivot, you try different things. We learn so much along the way. And I love that freedom to try out my crazy novel ideas. I wrote 5 novels on the way to Love Boat Taipei. I had to bury 4 of them before this one hit. And I think being in this environment of understanding that that's just part of the process, that's how we grow. And it's actually better to fail faster so you can move on, faster, was really, really helpful to me as like an incubator, a place to be.
I love that, the fail faster. I've never like put it those words, but yeah, I really like that one. Especially, yeah. I didn't realize because I grew up in California. I didn't really kind of ever pictures like, oh yeah, it's okay to like
Mm.
normalize failing because and moving on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not really, I mean, it's not really failing, right? It's about just trying out things and seeing what works.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, one last question for you for today. What can you tease about Love Boat Reunion coming out later this year, and any other stories you might have coming up?
Well, so Love Boat Taipei is the first book. Love Boat Forever is the second book, and it's actually already out in the world. It follows two of the fan favorites, Sophie Ha and Xavier Ye. It actually takes place right after the events of book one, where they're all kind of back in school. Sophie has sworn off boys for the summer or after her disastrous summer, and is doubling down on being the best CS major that Dartmouth has ever seen. Meanwhile, Xavier's father has forced him to repeat senior year of high school until he graduates. And Xavier has this undiagnosed learning difference that he's kept like, buried deep inside him. So the two of them end up teaming up to try to take control of their own futures. And they find themselves going back to Taipei on this wild, unexpected Love Boat reunion with everyone piling on. And then the third novel, Love Boat Forever, comes out in November, and that is set 6 years later. So we get to see what happens to everyone 6 years later. It's told through the point of view of Ever's younger sister, Pearl, who is a prodigy musician, has this big blow up on TikTok and ends up going to Love Boat to lay low for the summer. But of course, Love Boat's not going to let her lay low.
Awesome. Awesome. Can't wait to check it out. Yeah, I got them all on my Audible. I'm gonna catch up as soon as I can. Thank you so much, Abigail. Can't wait for everyone to see Love in Taipei coming out on Paramount Plus.